setting up your meeting for your YouTube Live.
This will be my first.
All right, I think we're getting there. We are live. Okay. All right, so I just want to welcome you. Uh-oh, let me turn that off so I can't um, hear the background. I'm just going to welcome you, and I'm so excited actually to welcome Ronke, Ronke here today with me. And just to let you know, this is a little bit about our view from God's corner. You know, the view from God's corner was created for anyone who loves Jesus and longs to walk closer with him, especially in these challenging times. So this is a channel I created. I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm just a woman answering God's nudge to show up. Through this channel, I'm sharing real life reflections, scripture based encouragement, and a call to dive deeper into God's word. And so with me today is the beautiful Ron Key. And I'm just really thrilled to have her here with me. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Um, I want to find the information that I had here, if I still have it. There she is. So she is a corporate motivational speaker, and I would love to know more about that on another day because that is fascinating to me. And she is a top-rated motivational speaker and health and wellness advocate known for inspiring individuals and organizations to say yes to your future. Through personal growth, mindset mastery, and wellness, Ronke empowers audiences to unlock resilience and step confidently into their highest potential. I love that. Her journey from pharmaceutical industry to being a transformational speaker has made her sought after voice for creating purpose-driven change. Ronke is building a movement of possibility, leadership, and positive impact, one empowered life at a time. Ronke, I love that.
Thank you so much
So,
for having me.
well, I just want to get started because I feel that this is going to be such a fun. We were just chatting before we went live, and we should have been recording. We should have been going live before because we were feeling God's love already and the power that can move through us, through him, from him. So I would love Ron Key. I'm going to get your name right before we're done here.
Fine.
Um, I would love to hear from you about your view from God's corner. What does life look like? And just tell us your story from that perspective. And it
Yeah,
could be before you came. Y'all, just so you know, I don't know her story. So this is going to be both of us discovering. I can't wait.
yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you so much for having me on. Just your perspective, your movement, your business alone is just so inspiring to see other women, not only in business, but just following the Christian path, right? Letting God lead us as we continue in our businesses. But I can think back to a point, and I take what you said are my view from God's corner, kind of like literally. Right. I think back to a time when I felt like I was in a corner, or, when I felt like I needed to make a decision or feel supported. And that time was around the time my father passed away. So it's about 8 years ago. And everyone who knows me knows that was my best friend in every aspect. There was no topic that was off limits that he did not try to give me wisdom on, give me guidance on. And for that, I'm forever grateful. I still hear his words and use that wisdom as I continue. So, with that, you can imagine it was a very difficult time when he passed, and he was sick. And so we knew he was passing. But nonetheless, it doesn't make it any easier. And
Mhm.
so when he passed, it's just, when he passed, I also was given birth to my son, my youngest son, and he was around 2 months at that time point. So it was a little bit difficult time, right? Because it's a mixture of you're feeling grief with losing your parent, but you're carrying a new life in you, and it's type of a dichotomy that you're just trying to manage between the two. And I think the conscious part of it is just knowing, as a mother, you know that your mood and your feelings and your emotions all affects the life that's growing inside of you. And so it was a bit of a struggle, but I was able to be more intentional. So that time period helped me to be more intentional because I was aware of the both aspects that were happening in my life. But as I continued and as my father transitioned, it was just really difficult. But I knew that I had to keep going, right? And I knew that I always knew that God was with me through it all. So many times that I could feel Him, that I just knew that He was there. Even when I prayed, or just the amazing friendships that I was able to build during that time, that came in as support, and even my family as support. But with that, one pivotal moment that I can clearly remember, and it was a day that was just really hard with grieving. And I was just trying to make some decisions, like from a career standpoint. And this may have been months later, but as you know, grief grief has a cycle. And so it's not, hey, we grieve for 3 months and it's over, right? You have to go through that cycle, and I had to learn that. And so it was time for me to start making some decisions about, career wise. And I've always wanted to go into consultant. I've always said I want to go from full time into consultant, and just more so for the time freedom. But I just enjoyed the interaction from a consultant level with companies or with pharmaceutical companies. It was more of that, hey, how can I come in and just help you? How can I be a complete resource? It wasn't that you had to tell anyone what to do or give the agenda, which I definitely don't mind. Um, but at that stage in my life, it was going to be a little bit easier to come in as a consultant. And so right around the same time, I had a vice president of quality that was, a mentor to me, and she's still a mentor to me today. And she told me, hey, I have a consultant opportunity. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just too much going on, right? It's like a new baby, my dad transitioning. Now I'm getting kind of the opportunity that I've always wanted. And so I was just thinking like I can't do it, right? Like I need to go crawl in a corner and stay there, as long as I can, and just work through my grief. But that's the hard thing. We know life keeps going, right? Like life does not stop.
Yeah.
As even as bad as we want it to, for a couple of months or a year, it doesn't stop. And so I thought about the opportunity, and I was like, okay, this is a good idea. This is probably a good idea for me to have some time and, out of the house and be able to look at my as I go forward. And no, I couldn't figure it out. I remember being chin was down for a nap, and we hear a voice, but God's presence in us, right? We feel that voice that whispers to our heart. And for me, it said, say yes to your future, right? And this is the first time I'm here, but that's behind the platform of that, of what I have. But just being able to say yes, and it shook me like to my core. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna say yes to it. And you talked earlier about God speaks to you, or when you feel that you have direction from Him, you start to go, and then the path begins to open, right?
Yeah.
And we don't always see the whole path as bad as we want to. And I'm type A, so I want to know, where are we going? Where are we headed? What time are we arriving? But
Right.
it just begins to unfold, right? And so, that was a pivotal time in my life. And I can look back and say I'm so grateful I made a decision for myself, for my family, for my son. It was really impactful, in helping to deal with grief at that time, with my dad passing. I think that time period of, hey, I'm going to continue to go forward. I know God is with me. I know, even though
Mm.
my best friend has transitioned, I know God is always going to be with me. And I know that He always has my best interest in mind, right? And I leaned on that scripture of that He will never leave me nor forsake me, right? So I
Right.
never experienced that much loss, but it kind of puts you at a fear like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? You start understanding that, things in this life are temporary. The people we get to enjoy, have an expiration time period. And so it kind of shakes you to your core. But just knowing that, God is always here. He's always here to lead us, to guide us. He's here in those silent prayers that I had that was only tears, right? And it's just incredible how my relationship with God strengthened because I had to continue to lean on him. I realized that we can talk to our friends, we can talk to our family, but at some point you're with yourself, right? At
Yeah.
some point, you have that silent time with yourself. And I know for me going through that, I just wanted to fill it up so much. And you just don't want to be alone. But when you are, you have to face that or face the loss or face the grief cycle. And just knowing that God was always there to hear me, to be with me, to support me. I could open his word and read his words of encouragement. I remember being in the Psalms so often, and it was just so encouraging.
So, Ronke, there were so many things you said that just really how like I want to ask you a few questions because, or at least the first question that came to me was, you're looking at it after the fact.
Hmm.
I want to, I mean, I felt so connected there because, oh my gosh, um, I know the pain and I know the struggle, and I feel that you took made such a bold decision when you're going through the pain of the loss of your dad and a child, right? You were in that space of I think he or she was already born. Is that when
Yeah.
you were
He
that
was, yeah,
opportunity came to you? And I know that had to be a hard decision because
yeah,
I'm guessing that your first instinct is to curl it within, right? To stay, just let yourself deal with it. And the fact that
yeah,
you took that bold step and you trusted God, whether you realize, I mean, I'm getting the feeling you did realize it, but I think
yeah,
sometimes we're in that space. We may not realize that that's what we're being asked to do and that we're required to trust. And that
yeah.
when we do, like I said, I think hindsight, you're seeing the beauty of your decision, but in the mess of it, you don't know.
You don't. You're exactly right because when it's happening, we can't see the clarity of it. It's just like a path unfolding. It's like a flashlight, and you're just walking as you see. And you're right, we don't see the big picture. I didn't see it at all. I didn't see the incredible, and I emphasize that so much because I just really met some really incredible people, even from work wise, that help to support me because, of course, we know at work, we're spending majority of our time there on a day-to-day basis. And you have to think like even grieving at work, right? It requires your focus and concentration. But it's good to have I don't underestimate that of having great people, great friends, great support, because you can't really see yourself at that time. I couldn't
Yeah.
know what my grieving process looked like. I just know what I felt. I know that even on the days that I could be the most happiest, I could still be the most saddest, right? I could still end my day and still be sad and thinking about my dad. But I think the perspective that I knew that grief was a cycle and one day I would be okay, right? And I didn't know what that day was. And I remember praying, I would be like, God, I just want to go through the cycle, right? Not that I want to discredit it because I miss it, it hurts so badly. But it's just like, okay, I just want to get to the end of it. And I kept always looking at the grief cycle and like try to see like where am I at? And then it became like, okay, it's where am I at today? Right? Because maybe today I feel okay. And then something happens and it kind of takes you back and reminds you. And it's like, oh, we're starting all over again. But you're so right. It was just a matter of making that choice. And I think if I didn't have God's guidance to kind of make that choice and go forward, I don't know that I would have done it. And I can only imagine, kind of progressing through grief, feeling like I'm in a cycle because I can actually talk about it right now. But imagine if I'd taken that left turn of like, hey, I'm just going to lay in bed all day because that's what I truly felt like doing. But I knew that there was going to be, it's no end to that, right? Like, how long can you lay in bed? How long can you have grief and without facing it and accepting it? So yeah, you're exactly right.
What do you feel? So if someone's listening here and maybe they're in the middle of that, maybe they're in the middle of a storm right now where they want to just hide, that's kind of what we want
Yeah.
to do. I get that feeling. I've been there. When you were in the middle of that, what are or maybe now that you can look back, what would you say to someone that might be in the middle of that right now to give them
Yeah.
hope to get through it? Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
You know what? I would say whether it's grief or any other issue, first honor your feelings, right? Validate yourself to say what I'm feeling is true, what I'm feeling is real. So you can first have self-acceptance, right? And also know that there is going to be a day where the way you feel today is not going to be that way. Things will become better. And I think that gives you hope, or it gave me hope to know that the way I feel today is not the way I'm going to feel forever. Like, let's solidify that first right now, because that's going to make me want to continue to take actions. And then I would say, I know we're not talking about health, but just start moving, start walking. Right. We know that our emotions, we can hold them certain places in our body, but they can move as well. And so as we continue to walk, and even if it's just walking outside in nature, walking outside, in God's earth, right? We can
Hmm.
even feel connected. But it's just take those steps to keep moving. Whether you say, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna walk to the closest stop sign and back every day, but just knowing that when you start something, you can. And also just being able to get outside of that corner, whether that corner is that your bed that you're laying in, the couch, the recliner, is being able to get outside of that. And then if there's trusted support that you can rely on, seek that. Right. I think a lot of times the enemy wants us to be isolated in our problems and isolated in our
Mm,
grief. But
yeah.
when we take that approach to say, hey, no, I'm just not going to sit in this and it's just not going to, just sit with it and just allow me to rot away. But I'm going to find somebody I trust, someone that I know loves me, someone I know supports me, and speak to them about what I'm feeling, and really just knowing that you're not alone. After I spoke to some friends, I realized other friends had experienced the same thing. And my dad is Nigerian, and so there's a cultural aspect to it. And so I was able to speak to other friends that were Nigerian and, could, really enjoy some of those good, funny jokes that we have about our parents that, as being a Nigerian child. And it was just so connecting and so wholesome. But definitely know that you're not alone, to
Mm.
whoever may be experiencing it, and know that a better day will come. And then also connect with others that that love and, love you and have your best interest in mind.
One thing I think you said, well, everything you said, I totally agree with all those messages and those tips. Was when the moving, but there's a couple of things that came up, but one of the things was that I had never thought of in what you said, because the moving outside, getting in nature, I think there's the very healthy thing in that.
Mhm.
Um, but the fact that if you feel that you can't do something because you're the grief or the pain or whatever you're in, the fact that you said, if you just walk to the mailbox and back, you've
Yeah.
accomplished something. And that was very powerful. I had a friend years ago that was struggling through a lot of things going on in her life. And she said, if I could just I make the bed in the morning, I felt like
Oh,
that was something I could accomplish, I could control. And so
yeah.
maybe taking that one thing that can you do and maybe do every day and know that you have accomplished something and that you have control of something in your life. And sometimes that's just so tiny and
Yeah.
so seems um may not seem like a big thing, but it can be.
No, I
Um,
completely agree with you. And because, when things happen to us or we experience things in life, sometimes we feel like those things that happen are out of our control. But I agree with what your friend even said about making the bed is that whatever is within your control, right, is what we should take control over. And even like you said, the small thing of making your bed, that's a win, right?
yeah,
That's the win.
right.
You're like, I can do it, so let me do it. And we know even from a stress aspect in our bodies, when we start thinking about the things that are outside of our control, that's when stress, anxiety, and all of those additional things trigger. But when we say, hey, what's in my control? And how can I have some level of control over it, and as I continue to go through whatever journey or situation I'm going through.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's reality. I don't know that we always have that control,
Yeah.
and that's hard, but it's hard to not feel that. I mean, and I know that sounds strange, but I know that there are times in my life that I wanted to control was the times I was in the worst stage. And then after the fact, I realized when I gave that control up to God, that faith in Him, is when it the stress and the angst went away.
Yeah.
However, sometimes we just have to make that first step. And if it's making our bed or brushing our teeth or walking to the mailbox every day, because that's something you can do to progress yourself forward. I think there's like almost two conversations here, but they go together. And sometimes it just takes that first step of doing something. So I love the way this conversation is going on. The other thing I wanted to address that you said that I think is so important, and I'm not going to get the right scripture, but I remember I was on it. I trail ride and I go camping, and our church does that. It's a cowboy church. So we were camping, and the pastor mentioned a scripture, and I wish I'd had it in my brain right now, but I don't. But it talks about how the everything in God's creations speaks God's message. Like it's you can the trees and the air and the wind and that. And I thought that's why when I'm out in nature, I
Yes.
feel so this abundance. And I think what you just said about getting outside and moving, and I think there's some very valid healing
Yes.
properties to that.
I
And so,
agree. I completely agree. I don't know the exact science around it, but I completely agree with you. That was one of the pivotal things that I did that helped me so much, besides just being more focused on my exercise and diet and, what I was consuming just to stay healthy, just mentally healthy, physically healthy, but just even going out into the sunlight, right? Just walking. I cannot emphasize that much, enough. And even if it's just a short distance, I know a lot of people think, well, I'm going to go out and walk 3 miles. No, if you do a quarter of a mile, you're probably going to feel great.
yeah.
Just in out. And
Yeah, so
that's,
we may have to do one time, we may have to interview you about the view from God's corner when you're taking care of the temple, right? Taking
yes,
care of your body, because that's such a powerful way to honor Him and
mhm,
honor ourselves. It's just I totally agree there. Um, so Ronke, I
mhm.
am so thankful that you shared your story. Um, what does what does life look like now? Now that you've gone through, and we all go through the ups and downs, and I'm sure you've had more than you can't we can talk about today. But now that you've gone through that time, and I just my heart goes out to you because
Thank you.
I feel it, right? And I can't imagine going through that and also, having bringing this beautiful life into the world. And maybe there was a blessing in there too, as far as, you got that blessing, with the pain.
Exactly.
What does your life like now as you're looking from the viewer? God's got you now, right?
Mhm.
And it sounds like you had that faith all along, but we don't always know the future, right? But now that you're looking back, what do you feel like there's the message, the main message you received by stepping in that faith and just taking action and the nudge and following through?
Yeah, I think that the message that I received then still resounds now. Of one, just trusting in God and saying yes to our future as we continue to go, right? Not that we see the whole path clearly, but continuing to say yes to our future. And then a bigger part of it, with my dad passing was how do I continue to live my life to honor God? But
Mm.
how do I continue to live my life to honor all of the values that he instilled in me, right? And so trying to get that clear picture of what does that path look like, right? What does that path, what does that intentional path look like that I want to take and being able to continue to walk into that because I clearly think I really believe our parents are here to guide us and to lead us, and they do the best they can, right? And as I continue to parent, I understand so many things so differently now. It's just like the difference a few years may, like I can finally hear more clearly everything my dad was trying to tell me just by, a few years going by and experiencing different milestones in life. But it's really just looking at God, how do I continue to honor you with my life? And how do I continue to honor my parents? I still have my mom, but how do I continue to still honor the parents that you gave me here?
Mm.
Be a good example to others as well.
That is a wonderful perspective because I think um that just the continuing to, okay, God, this is where I'm at and I've come so
Yeah,
far. And then I want to honor, how do I do more? Not more, maybe that's not the right word. How do I continue in this space? Because I
yeah,
mean, Ronke, I know you've probably experienced this and maybe some listeners have too, where you've stepped in that space in faith and total trust and it's like it gives you that strength and that incentive to listen and step in faith again. And so it sounds like
yeah.
you stepped in that faith and now you're like, yeah, it's like it's almost like, and they say blind faith because you don't know what that next step is going to be. But it sounds
Yeah.
to me like you are in that space where like just you're still discovering.
And I think the good thing is when we experience utilizing faith, and when we do things, it makes it, how can I say it? And it is so helpful because you're able to look back and remember and say, okay, well, I did this situation and I didn't completely know the whole path, but I, did my due diligence. I prayed, I asked God for guidance, but I still did my part as well. But with that, I think it gives us the confidence to continue to have faith. And we're human beings. We all have those times where we have fear. And it's like, hold on, why am I fearing? Right? God did this, God did that. He's done so much in my life. And it's just more so leading with faith. Right. When fear tries to interject, or when we try to, or see obstacles that look insurmountable. And it's like, well, no, my God is insurmountable. Right. So, I know that I'll be fine going forward. And I think it's just continuously trying to keep that perspective, in mind, or keeping that in forefront, just because, we are humans and we are going to feel fear and we are going to feel doubt. But just remembering the things God has done for us in our lives and being able to lead from that standpoint.
Thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
I feel that this is the time to start wrapping this up. I
Yeah.
feel that you have, I'm hoping and praying that, and I'm believing actually that the words that we're sharing today is going to land with someone that needs to hear it. Um, that is my prayer, is that whatever words and conversations are having on this channel, that someone can hear them and go, okay, maybe next time I will question the fear because fear is not a gift. Fear is not something that is, unless a bear is chasing you, right? That's
Yes.
where we need to like respond. But the majority of the time, fear is a choice, and
Mm,
we can choose to stay in that space, or we can trust 100%, give it to God. And I have seen and experienced that completely in firsthand experience. And it was such a shattering, or I shouldn't say shattering, it was such a pivotal moment in my personal life to be able to visually feel and see the difference between the fear gripping me to the point of pain and death to the moment of walking like through a door and the fear was completely gone. And it only
oh,
took one decision of me saying, God, I've done everything I can do. I do not want to fear any longer. I don't care what happens in the future. If I die tomorrow or the next 5 minutes, fine, but just take the fear from me. And
yeah.
I just immediately, like, I'm just giving it to you, like giving total control. And when he took it, and when I felt no fear, nothing had changed in my life. Nothing,
Mm,
nothing had changed. And so the only thing was changed was my faith and trust in God. And so I share that because your story, you were so bold and brave and to take that step in faith and to not let fear or the idea of comfort. Sometimes the comfort is what we crave because it's easy.
right.
But in
Yeah.
reality, by taking that step forward, you what seemed easy wouldn't have ended up, you said those words, it's like I would have been stuck in that space, and that's not
Yeah.
easy, but you
Yeah.
stepped in faith and it became easier. And I
Yeah.
think that was a beautiful, beautiful example of your and where you're at now. I mean, it's just you wouldn't have been here probably in the same way.
I don't think I would have. I really, yeah, I know we're ending, but I really like what you said. And I don't know if I looked at it that way when you said fear is a decision. Right. And so just I think that's a key point from the question you asked, what would you advise someone on? And I think even what you added is so valuable to say, fear and faith. If fear is one, faith is one as well. And both of those are decisions. And maybe sometimes you have to make that choice daily. Like I'm going to choose faith over fear. But I really like how you pointed on that it is a decision.
And it's sometimes that's a bitter pill to swallow. Like it's like we don't feel that it's a decision,
Yeah.
and but it truly, truly is. And like I said, unless a bear's chasing you, there's certain circumstances that our fear reaction is real. Um, and but it majority of the time, even though the fear seems real, in that moment, the fear felt very real for me.
Yeah.
Um, but but I got to choose. Do I really want to live like this? Even if I was on a trail on a mule that I thought was going to fall off the Grand Canyon. Like it was just the fear was so gripping that if I passed out, I would have died if I fell off. Like there was nothing to keep me from falling. And
Yeah.
my God, I'm going to die if I, keep going this way because I'm going to pass out. And
Yeah.
so the choice, yes, the fear of, I mean, the idea that it could still happen. The mule was walking on the very edge of the trail, like there's a 3 foot path, walking on the very edge. He didn't walk in the middle. She walked like on the very edge. And so that didn't change. The
Yeah.
reality of that moment did not change. When I walked through that door, that imaginary door that I felt so physically of on the side of fear through a other side of no fear, she was still walking on the edge. Nothing had
Oh my,
changed, but my fear was gone. And that is where I realized we don't, it's not, it's holding on to that fear. It is a decision. We
yeah.
can let it go. We could still, like it, I was in that moment, I was completely honest when I said, God, if I die within the next 5 minutes or in 5 years from now, that's fine. It's in your hands. I'm giving it all to you. Because in my belief, I believe that was going to happen. It
Yeah.
was a very strong chance it could, right? Now, reality, it was maybe not. Like a lot of times fear is not in our, it's the reality was if she fell, we could die. If I passed out, 50-50 chance, I could have fallen off the
Exactly.
wrong side. So the
Oh,
odds, right? Like, so I share that because in that moment, I realized it was a choice. The fear was the choice. The
yeah.
circumstances we're in is is going to happen. And a lot of times us being in fear makes it worse. In that case, it was making it worse. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. That's incredible. Felt. But that,
I think I'm frozen. can
no.
can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Yeah.
now?
Yep. Yeah, I think we're good. Mhm.
All right, Ronke, I'm gonna we'll close. We were not in a hurry, so I didn't mean to give you that impression earlier
Yeah.
because we could talk all day if you wanted. But I just want to thank you so much for showing up and being showing up for yourself and having that trust in God and just stepping into that.
Yeah.
And I just believe that when we do that, He's going to honor us and not honor you so much. And you just show a light, you shine a light, and I'm so thankful for you shining God's
You.
light in this space.
Thank
So, all right, thank
you. I
you.
thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to speaking to you again, even if it's offline, but I definitely look forward to speaking and meeting with you again.
Yeah. Mwah. See y'all later.